we're at the next stage of the Barcelona Pavilion model. We'll start to deal with the walls and everything else in the model. So we do need to do a bit of layer swapping around here. Okay, the layers that are currently got visible, I want to lock those so I don't accidentally move things out of position. Okay, so I'll start off by locking these two layers. So you can use the lock command straight from here. So lock, it lets me pick it. Well, let's unlock, try the correct one. Lock layer and pick, and then the water. So I've locked the two water layers. I want to lock all the 2D layers in one go, so a quicker way with that would be to use the keyboard shortcut that we've been using. So minus LA, return, lock, so it's LO, return, 2 star, return once, twice, done. Okay, so all the 2D layers are locked. So what I'm going to do is bring on all the other layers. So we've got a lot of 2D information that's down at the bottom level of the plinth. So we'll bring on all the other layers. So minus LA, return, on, return, star, return twice. Okay, so now I want to move this material upwards, and then I can start using it. Okay, rather than moving the plinth down, so that would actually make the ground here minus 1200, better to bring this stuff upwards to where it should be. Okay, now because all these other layers are locked, you can quite happily do this by picking right over the whole drawing. So it's M, return, grab everything, return, and the distance to move it is defined by the object. So base point, destination point. Okay, now let's start with this object here, and what we're going to do is give it a thickness. So firstly, make that object current. Okay, so it's 3D wall marble, pink, and we want to put the UCS back to normal. So you could change it to world, or a more definite method that I use is you type in the command, so it's UCS and return twice, and that just resets it properly. Okay, so let's change the thickness of these lines. So what we want to do is change the thickness, and let's assume we don't know how high this is. Okay, we're going to pick a thickness from here. So this has to be done quite carefully. So we type in the command, so it makes it so it stops it using the properties panel. So it's minus CH, return, pick the object and return. We want to change a property of the object, so it's P, return. I want to change its thickness, so it's T, return, and I can pick the thickness from the 2D drawing. So endpoint on yellow to the endpoint on yellow. Press return to finish. We should have a thicknessed polyline here. If I shade it, okay, do you see there's a little bit of a color change across it? It's like a pseudo shading there. That is really just an indicator to tell you that this is a polyline. Okay, so if you explode that, just watch what happens to the shading, it will disappear. So X, return, pick the shape and return, and you notice the shading disappears. So if you see that kind of subtle, strange shading, it's really just an indicator to tell you that that's a polyline that's been given thickness. So back to 2D wireframe. So I'm not going to use that method anymore. Okay, it's really just to show you that's a kind of a legacy 3D command. It works, but it's fairly crude. Okay, The next wall, what we'll do is we'll do this wall and this wall, because they're on the same layer, we'll do them in the same method. Okay, now we don't need to see all this other 3D stuff now. We only had to have the switched on because we were moving it. So let's just use the layer off command here, and we'll pick a few of these layers just to get rid of them, just to keep things a little bit simpler. Okay, there's a few items up here, we'll just switch those off as well. Okay, it's just a bit too much clutter on screen. Okay, press escape to stop that command. Okay, and what we'll do this time is we'll 3D face these. So firstly we need to copy them up to the correct height. CP, return, pick these two pink shapes and return, and we can use the 2D model again to set our height. So base point and destination point. Press return to finish, we should have a copy. Okay, my screen's a bit squashed, so you couldn't see it happen in real time there. Okay, make this object your current layer. Okay, so it should be 3D wall marble green, and then we'll use 3D faces around these objects. So this object is trapped by the plinth on the bottom, and it will be trapped by a roof at the top. So there's no need to put a lid on this. Okay, there's no lid on this one because it's trapped between base and roof. This object will be different because it's partially under a roof and then it's partially outside. So it would probably be best to put a lid on this one. Okay, so the command is 3F and return. And we can speed things up here. 3D facing can be fairly laborious, but if you've got a situation like this, you can actually work all the way around the shape in one go, as long as you start in the right place. So I'll start here and take my second point downwards. Stay on that side of the object for your third point, then go back up to the fourth point. And then you look in your command prompt, it's saying specify another third point. Okay, point 3, point 4, keep going. Point 3, point 4, and finally point 3, point 4, return to finish. So that was quite quick. Have a look at that. We can see that it doesn't have a lid on it, doesn't need it. Okay, so it really kind of doubles the speed of the 3D facing. Okay, there's a bit more going on here. Maybe we actually don't need the plinth to see the plinth objects at all now, so perhaps we should switch those off, I think. So we'll use freeze instead of off, and we'll bring them back on later on. So we'll freeze these two layers. We don't need to see them again for a while. Okay, escape to stop. Okay, so try the 3D facing again. You may want to switch ortho off because it does feel a bit restrictive when you use it. Okay, so 3F. We'll start in roughly the same place. Pick 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going. 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. Be careful here. 4. And keep it going. Okay, near the end now. 3, 4, 3, 4, return. Okay, so we're leaving a bit of 2D stuff behind, but that can be cleared up later on. We don't have to worry about that. What we need now is a lid on this object. So it's 3D face again, 3F, return, pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep going. 3, 4, 3, 4. Return to stop, and we've got double walls now, starting to build up. Okay, let's deal with these ones as solids. So we make these walls are all the same colour. These are kind of travertine marble. So make current, pick an object. Okay, so I've got 3D wall. I've coloured limestone because the colour looks much more like limestone, to be honest. And then we can extrude these. They're all closed polylines. So extrude. We can do them all at the same time. Return, and we're taking them to the height on the model. So this is the height of these travertine walls. Okay, so it's handy to have the 2D stuff available. So next job is this big limestone seat. So we make it current. Okay, and we'll follow the model, the drawing here. The seat is actually a bit thinner on top, but we'll use the 2D drawing for consistency. Okay, so firstly we want to extrude the boxes. Let's take all these boxes. So these are little stumpy kind of legs for the chair. Press enter, and we can take the height from the 2D information. So it just reads the Z information from this particular point. Okay, got lots of little boxes. Okay, next we want to move the big rectangle up by the height of the box. So it's M, return, pick the big rectangle and return, and it doesn't matter which box as long as you use one of them. Bottom corner to a top corner. Then extrude again, pick the big rectangle and return, and take its height from the 2D information. Okay. We've now got these column shapes. They're cruciform columns. They're very elegant stainless steel, highly polished columns. So if we make current one of these cross shapes, and then extrude, and we want to pick all 8 of these. Okay, try not to miss any, and return, and we can start using the model that we're near. Okay, we'll take the height from the corner of this wall. Okay, next we've got these roof shapes, these main roof planes. So this yellow line here is a good guideline, or we could use one of the objects we've already got. So we want to move those firstly upwards. So it's M, return. Use the selection window because there's 2 lines here. You don't want to leave one behind. Okay, using a green selection window, we can pick them. Press return. We don't want to move anything else. Okay, let's just use a wall here as the guide. So end point to end point. Okay, now at the moment this layer here is called 3D Roof Soffit, and it's using a dashed line, so we want to dispose of the dashed line. So use your main layers dialog, and it's Roof Soffit. You'll notice it's using a dashed dot line type, so we'll change that to continuous and OK. Now we don't have a layer for the roof top, so we've got the soffit but we haven't got the roof top. So while we're here, let's create a new layer, be 3D Roof Top, and I'm going to make that a dark shade, go for 251, and Roof Soffit, I'm going to swap that to white. Okay. Okay, let's make Roof Soffit the current layer, and then close the dialog box. Okay, we'll move the roof tops out of the way first. Let's deal with the roof tops. So we want to move just the outer rectangle. I'll tell you what. Now let's move it at the end. Let's extrude the soffits first. So we extrude, and we're picking the inner rectangle at each side, and return. And we can take the height from the drawing. So this is the point to pick. This will set the extrusion height for the soffits. Okay, now we want to move the outer rectangles up by the height of the soffit. So it's M, return, pick the outer rectangles and return. And we can use the soffit here as our guide. So we're going from bottom corner to top corner. Okay, change your current layer to roof top, and then extrude again, picking the outer rectangle and return. And we can take the height information from the 2D drawing. Okay, so it's looking much more like the Barcelona Pavilion now. It's got its little roof shapes on. So if we shade it, it's getting that much more interesting kind of dynamic that the building has. Back to 2D wireframe. Okay, the next stage is to deal with the windows and the doors. So this is probably the most laborious part of the work. Okay, so these ones are finished. So let's bring on the layers for the windows and the doors. So I've got 3D window frames. So we'll deal with the vertical ones first. So we'll bring back on that layer, and what we'll do is we'll use the freeze command here to get rid of the other objects. I should have made the yellow one the current layer. So make 3D window frame vertical your current layer, then we can freeze the other objects. It's a bit easier to work when there's not all that clutter around. Okay, these are simple. They're all rectangles. They can all be extruded. So we extrude. Grab all of these yellow shapes. You might need 2 or 3 selections to do that carefully, and enter. And I'm going to use the height of this yellow line to set the height for them. Okay, now we need to see the horizontal parts of the frames and make that the current layer. 3D window frame horizontal. Okay, so this is probably the most laborious bit. Okay, these are just 2D lines at the moment. So what we've got to do is put a rectangle between each window frame. So we need to go around it doing rectangles first, and then we can extrude them. So I'm going to leave the video running for this because it's just a bit easier than editing it all. So I'm rectangling between each window frame. At the doors, the rectangles are a bit thinner. Now, I've drawn this many times, so I will be a bit faster than you at doing this, but just take your time. This could be done in lots of different ways as well. With AutoCAD, there's always different ways of doing the same operation. Okay. So that's that area done. Now I've got to do the frames on this area. Thin ones for the sliding doors, thicker frames for the main. Okay, So that's all the rectangles drawn, and I want to extrude only the rectangles. Okay, we can use a clever way of picking them out here, and that's called a command called SSX, and this allows you to select an object and it will pick everything that's like it. So SSX, return, just pick one of your rectangles. Okay, and what it's doing, it's searching the drawing for lightweight polylines that are on the 3D window frame horizontal layer. So that's the only objects that it will find. So press enter again, it's found 24 of them. Okay, we now want to extrude them. Okay, so it hasn't done anything with them, it's just effectively kind of earmarked them, put them on the clipboard ready for use with the next command. So I want to extrude, and I want to extrude the previous objects. So it's P return. Notice all 24 have been selected. Press return again because we don't want to pick anything else. Okay, and the extrusion height can be taken from the drawing. So we should have boxes along the bottom of all of these. Okay, now unfortunately solids aren't selectable with SSX, so I can't actually do that again to copy them to the top. So we've got to be a bit, we've got to laboriously kind of pick these now. Okay, but we could, if we wanted to, look at the side of the drawing. That might make it easier to pick them. So if we went to the right UCS, then do plan and return twice. Okay, then effectively I want to copy everything that's down here up to the top of the model. So copy, CP, return, do your selection now. Okay, then you can twist the drawing over. Oh, has it cancelled my selection? Let's just see. Ah, it was okay. Right, I'm going to redo that because I just wasn't sure if it had cancelled my selection. So we were at the plan, copy, CP, return. Pick everything at this bottom part with a blue selection, because otherwise you'll end up picking the yellow sticks as well. Okay, press return because that's the only objects you want to copy. Hold shift and twist your mouse, so it's resuming the copy command. We just need to look for an endpoint that's going to be easy to pick. So I'm going to come over here where there's a little less confusion. The base point is at the top of the object, so look for an endpoint at the top of one of the boxes, and your destination point straight above on the corner of this box. Press return to finish. That should have given us top and bottoms of all our window frames. Okay, now we need to glaze these, and once we've done the glazing we'll stop the video. Okay, there's two types of glass in the building. There's some opaque glass, stuff you can't see through, and there's transparent glass. So we'll do the opaque first. So bring back that layer, make it current. Okay, and the opaque glass goes in this panel and these three. But you'll only need two surfaces. There's no need to do a piece of glass for each one. We can do one piece of glass here, one piece of glass here, and a single surface is all that's needed. We could put the UCS back to normal, so UCS, return twice, and then for object snaps we need midpoint, not endpoint. Okay, and let's start with a smaller pane. So we're going from midpoint to midpoint, midpoint, midpoint. Okay, doesn't matter if you start at the top or the bottom. So it's a 3D face, 3F, return, midpoint, 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 midpoint. Return, and when you shade it, it should look even on both sides. Okay, look out for any squint angles. Okay, back to 2D wireframe, and can put in this piece of glass now. So 3F, return, pick one, run this one right the way through the 3 panels, looking for a midpoint here. It is actually handy to have Ortho 1 for this, so you can see where the line is going to go. So midpoint there, and then the final midpoint over here, and return to finish. So if I shade that, we've got our frosted glass, our opaque glass in those positions. Swap your layers over now. We want to bring on the transparent glass, make it current, work in the 2D wireframe. Okay, let's start with this door. Now this does need to have 2 separate pieces of glass, because later on we're going to animate the door opening. So we don't want one piece of glass stuck on one side. So 2 bits of glass for these doors. Pick 1, 2, 3, 4. Return to finish, and return to bring back the command. 1, 2, 3, 4. And carry on this side. So one very big piece of glass right away across here. Midpoint to midpoint, and then right the way down, midpoint, and carefully find the midpoint. Okay, big piece of glass here, 2 for the door, big piece of glass, and a single at the end. So 3D face again, pick 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 for the doors. We could have copied them across from the other door. That would have maybe sped things up slightly. This is good practice at drawing 3D faces. Big one here, covering 3 panels. And then a final one over there. And that completes the windows for this area. But we've still got glass to put in this area. So just 4 more pieces of glass to go. Going on here, maybe need to turn around so I can see a bit clearer. And then the last piece of glass on this sliding door. And that's all the glazing done. Just check it, make sure I haven't missed any bits. It's looking okay. Okay, we'll stop the video at that point.